Welcome to a concert today coming to you from the Keene Library up in Cohen Hall. Today is November 7th, and it is my pleasure to share music that has a theme of nature. I'm going to start off with a suite written by a woman composer, Marion Bauer, and her dates are 1882. She died in 1955. Very interesting woman. She was a good friend to Marion McDowell and came to the McDowell Colony many times. And the pieces I'm going to play for you were composed there at McDowell. And the first one is called White Birches, and the second one is called Indian Pipes, wonderful little wildflowers that grow here, and that one is dedicated to Marion McDowell. And the last one is called Pine Trees, so it's very New Hampshire. And I love playing this music because it's modern sounding. At the same time, it's within the classical embrace. This one is White Birches. So that was from New Hampshire Woods by Marion Bauer, and as I said before, it was composed here in New Hampshire. And the MacDowell Colony is a wonderful resource, and as a transplanted Californian, I've sort of done a little research living in New Hampshire, and it's interesting that our state has more artist colonies than any other state in America. And I sort of asked myself, why was that? And I asked a lot of artists, I've asked musicians and people, and the general consensus answer seems to be they leave you alone here. But I also think it's part of the rebel spirit, you know, live free or die. But artists do like to be not left alone so much. They need space, and they do need time to create, and that's a mysterious process. So the next group of pieces I want to share with you come from a woman who was born in Henniker, New Hampshire. Her name is Amy Beach. She was born in 1867 and lived until 1944. And in those days, that's a very long arc of life, because today we expect to live 60, 80 years. That wasn't the norm then, and she was a child genius. She's composing by the time she's 3 years old, and at some point the father was a paper salesman, and so he got a job down in in Boston. So they went south, moved to Boston, and by now she's 9 years old. She meets Longfellow, and she eventually plays with the Boston Symphony. She does it all, and in my opinion, she's the strongest and the best woman composer who's ever lived. Now that's a dangerous thing to say because it's a pioneer field, and maybe there are some other great ones, but to date, you know, in the year 2020, this woman stands head and shoulders above all the women composers from history, Clara Schumann, Fanny Mendelssohn. And she's a native girl, grows up in a homestead, and the family farm is still there in Henniker. We're making a documentary, actually, at the moment. It's going to air very soon of her life story. So I'd like to play 4 pieces that Amy Beach composed. The first 2 are going to be when she's about 21. She's married Dr. Beach when she's 18, and she's living in a beautiful townhouse on Commonwealth Avenue in Boston. She lives very large. And these pieces come from a suite. The first one is called In Autumn. The next one is called Dreaming. And then I'll talk a little bit about the other 2 pieces after that. So that's two pieces by Amy Beach, and that comes from her earlier years. And then, like the other lady I played before, Bauer, they were very, very good friends, both these women, with Marion McDowell. And Marion McDowell was establishing the McDowell colony, and so she relied on musicians to help her raise money to build the buildings, all the cottages there. And these two little pieces I want to share with you now are very beloved because what Beach did is highly unusual. She has replicated the song of the New Hampshire thrush. Well, you know, birds sing at a very, very, very high pitch, like almost siren level, and the diatonic scale doesn't really lend itself to bird song. You know, a bird doesn't sing. We're used to folk song or something like that. So what Beach did was, when she was at McDowell Colony, she heard the thrush singing in the morning, and she was very taken by that. And so she writes these little, they're called trills or riffs. And they're up very high, of course, and the keyboard up very high because she wants them to sound like little bird songs. And she marries it all into a very elegant little piano piece. So this is the Hermit Thrush, and this is the way they sound in the morning, at morn. And if you listen to New Hampshire thrushes, they are not going to sing in D minor like that, but they do definitely have that. And the way I know that is because if you go online and you Google New Hampshire thrush morn, and they have actual bird filming. So the next one is the hermit thrush in the evening or at dusk. So beach, the morning song was kind of sparkly, and then now it's more subdued, and you'll hear it, and she puts it in a different key. That was it. Now she goes to a much darker key. It's more plummy and dark. It's supposed to be in the evening. So, interesting little pieces. Composers in music have been trying to capture different animal sounds for forever, and part of the program that I want to share with you today has to do with nature. I'm going to throw in two pieces because all these composers on this little program were very influenced by a very famous composer named Franz Liszt. And he was born in 1811, quite a few years more before Bauer, Beach, and then I'm going to play McDowell. But they all were very gobsmacked by the way he played because he was a giant at the keyboard, and he could make thunder apparently in his master classes, and he loved to do that, or he would make rain, and what he was doing was sort of a precursor to what's going to happen with soundtrack music. When movies were silent, pianists and organists would be hired to make fire engine noise or rain, or the girl tied on the tracks, and then all these effects Liszt gave birth to. Before that, composers would put a little bird song in a madrigal, say during the Renaissance, or Mozart loved bird tweetings in his operas, but they were small references. And when Liszt comes along, he's a very theatrical composer, and these two little pieces, even though they're considered concert etudes, I love to play them because they expand the keyboard. And what do I mean by that? Well, you'll see. I have to cover the waterfront. I have to play all the notes. And in fact, Liszt was so theatrical. I went to his home museum in Budapest, and a big company in Boston, Chickering, invented a weird thing. It's a grand piano that's on its side. It's up and down, married to an organ, and then there's a keyboard. it's like this crazy circus instrument. And Chickering made that for Liszt because they realized that he had this real expansion of sound and how it could be. So these two little pieces, first one is called Forest Murmurs, Murmurs of the Forest, and the other one is called Nomenreigen, Gnome Dance. And all American composers at the turn of the century, 1900, they loved the woods, they loved gnomes, leprechauns, frogs, the whole nature trip. So here's Forest Murmurs. Don't try that at home alone. So now we get to Edward MacDowell, a favorite composer of mine. I love all composers. People are always saying, who's your favorite composer? And it's kind of hard because it depends on one's mood, like a mode in music, you know. Happy mood, sad mode. And MacDowell had a long life. He's born in 1860, dies in 1908. He was misunderstood. I wish he was alive to know how revered and iconic he went on to become, because in his lifetime, he was ahead of his time in the sense that when he was born in New York, and when he was a professor at Columbia, he would encourage his students to participate, and that's of course what all of us do today as educators. We love it when the students talk and bring their ideas into the classroom, but he was slapped down for that, and it hurt him badly, and he went to Europe. He studied with Liszt. That's why I put the Liszt pieces in there, and you'll hear echoes of Liszt in MacDowell's writing. And the reason I say that is because my hands are like detectives. And when I start playing music, whether it's Chopin or Brahms or a living person, Diana Krall, or a Fats Waller, I play a lot of jazz. I stand in their shoes, and my fingers tell me who influenced them because of the patterning, the sort of the rolls and the runs. So I'd like to play 4 little pieces that MacDowell wrote. He composed them up here in New Hampshire. They're called Woodland Sketches. The first one is in autumn, and I played an autumn piece that Beach wrote, so that I want you to hear the two. And it's interesting, they're both in the same key, F sharp minor. And Mr. MacDowell's pieces, I'm just going to run over here and get music. I have to do that. I usually memorize everything, but I don't play these a lot, and I wanted to share them on the program here. So the first one is called In Autumn, and I'll announce them as we go along. Nice little piece. And this next one is called From Uncle Remus. Uncle Remus. this next one is called A Deserted Farm. And this last one I'm going to play is called Water Lily, to a Water Lily. Those are fun pieces to play because they are written for the home pianist. They lay under the hands. They're very pleasurable. And the last three pieces I want to play, also composed by Edward McDowell, are not so easy to play. They're from a group of pieces that he calls his virtuoso etudes. The first one is Traumerei, and the second one is Bluette, and that's the name of a little flower that grows in New Hampshire, like a little forget-me-not. And the last one is Polonaise. And the reason I want you to hear the two sides of McDowell is that what you just listened to is very beautiful, sort of like when you go in the woods and you see wild vegetation, you know, a wild flower, which is very pure and simple. And then, of course, the breeders have hybridized them, and so a wild rose has just 5 little petals, and now roses have 50,000 petals. So these 3 pieces are like that. They're a hybrid version of McDowell's music. And the first one, Traumerei, he would have gotten that idea from the famous European composer Robert Schumann, whom he admired. my pleasure to play for you today, and I hope you'll come to the Keene Library, which is a wonderful resource here in Keene. Thank you for being with us.